and welcome to the podcast where good trivia gets rewarded and bad lies are punished. But will we catch the lies? This is What's the Fact?
It is What's the Fact, and I'm Ryan Whittal, and this is Warren Robertson, the man who's pretty good at catching my lies lately. But I will befuddle him. We've got
Befuddle, nice.
wonderfully befuddling topic today.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good topic. I like the use of the word befuddle. I don't think it's been said yet on the podcast at all.
No, is it even a word?
Yeah, it's a word,
Befuddle.
but it's one of those words where when you say them, you sometimes think,
Is that right?
Is that real? Is that a thing? Is that a word? But it is. It's a word.
We got a mega challenge today because
Yeah.
had it been the topic of literature, that would have been
Probably too broad.
tricky. But it is award-winning literature. Thank you, Dietz.
Yeah, award-winning literature. I mean, it was more challenging than I was expecting because the concept of awards, it turns out, is relatively new. You know,
Yeah.
like giving awards to literature. You know, I mean, the biggest book, some of the biggest books ever sold, didn't win any awards simply because there were no awards around. You know, nobody was like hey,
the
Charles
Dickens.
Dickens.
He won.
Oh, no
Dickens.
Nobel Prize for Literature for Charles Dickens. You know? Just didn't happen. So yeah, it does seem to be a more recent thing. But I've kind of fudged that a little bit. I'm kind of going with award-winning. Sometimes I'm kind
Even
of going
me.
with award-winning and and recognized. You know, people that received official recognition of some sort is as good as an award, I would say.
Yeah, I've also gone a bit fast and loose with the whole awards thing. So if you want to email your complaints to Dietz@gmail.
To Private Bag 531, Auckland Park, X044. Yeah.
So someone went in the little black hole room and pressed record because Dietz is still recovering from his Tinder date from last night.
Yeah.
Ivanka, she got off the Russian super yacht in Simon's Town, and he met on Tinder, and so he went on a date with her.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, he might look a bit like Gollum, but he's wildly successful with the ladies. It seems that that thing is I don't know what's wrong with the Gen X's of today, but they seem to like him.
Yeah, he's doing well. He's getting big points. Tinder, I think you got it's like a game. It's like points.
It is a game.
It's like chess.com, except it's like a rating of 980 for the next.
Yeah, no, it is a game, but currently I'm playing it on single player.
Are we going to get into literature?
Yeah, let's talk about
first?
literature before this goes off the rails.
Sure.
I think whose turn is it? Is it you?
I'll have a go first.
All right, go for it.
Award-winning. Talking about playing fast and loose. Here's my first fudge.
Yeah.
All right. So, Oscar Wilde. Do you like him? It's one of the movies I still got to see. The one where Stephen Fry plays Oscar Wilde. I think it's just called Wilde.
Look, I love Stephen Fry. He's a genius, but I don't think he's a great actor.
Oh, is it?
I think when
the funny stuff,
bless him.
Fry and his friend.
Fry and Laurie.
Yes.
No, I think he's fine. You know, he can deliver a line, whatever. He's just not believable as a character. And I feel like if I saw him as Wilde, I might be a little bit depressed about it. I'm sure he loves Oscar Wilde.
But, but my fact is about the book, A Picture of Dorian Gray.
Oh yeah.
One of my he passed away, but a good sort of religious speaker, old Ravi Zacharias. He referenced this book a lot in terms of the struggle of the soul and the good and evil over the soul. It's a lovely story. It really is a beautiful story, man. It's almost like that opening scene. It can be a little bit of Garden of Eden-ish. You know, you got this battle. They got this little serpent coming in and suggesting things, and then you got the good guy who painted him, the creator who painted him, and then the other guy suggests things, and then he makes the deal with the devil, although it's not the devil, but you know what I mean. Wonderful, wonderful book. And
I mean, for people who don't know, he makes a deal with the devil that the painting will age rather than he will. Yeah.
Yes. So no, the book didn't. I don't think Oscar ever won any awards for literature during his lifetime. But it was The Picture of Dorian Gray was made into a movie in 1945, and my fact is that Angela Lansbury, you know her?
Yeah.
She was nominated as Best Supporting Actress because she played. I didn't write it down, but she played the role of the young lady that he gets engaged to, that Dorian gets engaged to. I think her surname is Vane. Miss
Okay.
Vane.
I don't remember. I read it a very, very long time ago. But Angela Lansbury, I mean, she's dead now. She died in 2022.
Did she?
Yeah, she did.
Murder
She
She
Wrote.
Wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she, look, watching Murder She Wrote, you're not going to believe what I'm going to say next. But she was a looker, old Angela Lansbury, in her youth. So why not 1965? I mean, are you saying she was nominated?
Nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards for a role as the love interest, something vain, in the movie The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Huh. I mean, how far the mighty fall, though, right? She went from being an Oscar-nominated actress, a veritable Meryl Streep of her day, to solving crimes in Cabot Cove. I mean, it's very popular now.
Cabot
Like
Cove.
the thing is, it's very popular now for actors to be on the TV. But back then, movie actors to be on the TV. But back then,
It's a bit of a
it
step
really
down.
wasn't. Oh yeah, it was regarded as a massive step down. Whereas now with streaming,
Yes.
it's actually considered potentially better to
For
be
sure.
on a TV show that's going to go out 8 seasons, 9 seasons.
I think
back
some of
then-
the cast of some of these, like Big Little Lies, was a massive cast. Did you ever watch that series?
No,
Very good.
I mean there's too much TV at the moment. I can't watch everything.
Yeah.
But anyway,
That's how I feel
1965.
about
1965. Yes, she was nominated.
I opened with yet
Another lie.
truism. No,
Oh, truism. Oh,
absolutely
good, okay.
true. It was a lovely little fact because I was very fond of Murder She Wrote. I'm very fond of The Picture of Dorian Gray and Oscar Wilde. Also very fond of him. Find him fascinating, and want to watch the movie with Stephen Fry. But yes, the fact's true. Angela Lansbury she was nominated, didn't win, nominated for Best Supporting Actress in The Picture of Dorian Gray, 1945.
Yeah, old Oscar Wilde got the opposite of like awards and recognition.
Oh,
he
he
got
got
sent himself
lambasted.
to jail. I mean, there've been many historical literary critics who've sent great artists to jail. I'm thinking specifically here of like Tsar Nicholas I.
Oh,
Who sent Dostoevsky off to the...
shucks.
well, I mean, actually what he did was he sentenced Dostoevsky and his mates
because of the book.
to... No. Well, they were part of an atheist discussion club.
Oh,
And
really?
he sentenced them all to death. And on the day that they were to be... What they were supposed to be taken out into a courtyard. They were going to take a sword and then break the sword on their necks and
Good Lord.
then shoot them in a firing squad. And they broke the sword on their necks and tied them all up on the firing squad and got a last-minute reprieve.
Jeez,
And by reprieve, I mean they got sent to Siberia for 4
Yes.
years. Yeah.
Yes.
But
But did he have a religious conversion at some point in his life? Fyodor.
Fyodor.
Well, how many Dostoevskys are there?
No, it's just Fyodor. Yeah, Fyodor. Dostoevsky, yeah.
As I told you, I'm busy reading. It's Dietz's book actually. The brothers Karamazov. Yeah.
Nice.
It's quite religious in its so far. I'm about a quarter in.
Yeah,
Very
no. He's I mean, maybe Look, after that, Alexander II becomes quite fond of Dostoevsky, if I remember correctly. He had him come and do readings at the palace, and I think he even may have asked Dostoevsky to be like a tutor for his children.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that becomes a much more beneficial relationship than the one with his father. But yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I'm.
And on the other thing about Dorian Gray is, did you know at his trial for, Oscar Wilde for being homosexual or whatever the trial was about, they read passages of The Picture of Dorian Gray to show how sexually explicit
I
this
see.
man
Amoral.
perverted.
How
Yes,
amoral he was. Yeah.
perversion.
Yeah. Yeah. Big deal. But so many good books have gone kind of unrewarded. And actually, I'm opening with one that very famously didn't win any awards at the time that it was released. It has subsequently been listed amongst the best novels of all time by Times New Week and the Modern Library and the London Observer, which I'm counting as awards. They've been put on their formal lists. It's Catch-22 by Joseph Heller, and it happens to be one of my favorite books of all time because this is like brilliant military satire, and it's very, very funny. And the whole conceit of Catch-22. I mean, if you know what the phrase Catch-22 is entered into our lexicon to mean like an unsolvable problem, and the Catch-22 that he poses in there for this military unit is that like pilots, all the pilots want to be declared insane because they don't want to get in their bombers or their fighters and fly off and do their missions.
Ooh.
So they all want to be declared insane. But the only way you get declared insane is to put yourself up for an evaluation to be declared insane. And if you're capable of putting yourself up for evaluation to be considered insane, then you can't possibly be insane and you must fly. So, yeah, no. This is the kind of conceit, and it's full of these funny kind of witty stories. But my fact is actually that when it was released, it was panned by critics and generally considered pretty shit. Like I've got here, the original 1961 New York Times review says it's not an entirely successful novel. It's not even a good novel. It's not even a good novel by conventional standards. So there you are. That was the first review that came out for Catch-22.
Jeez. Wow. and the war stories were around the Second World War.
Yeah.
Shame. Yeah, man, that's odd, hey. That is really odd. It's funny how things become classics. I mean, I was also watching, just for fun, The Big Lebowski, because it's, it's a thing I try and watch every 6 months or so.
Wow.
I haven't read it. It sounds very, very charming and lovely. But it sounds like it's a kind of fact that could be true. It could have been slammed. And then something has to happen. Someone influential 10 to 20 years later has to pick it up and go, geez, this is good. But yeah, I'd have to say you've opened with the truth.
Right, I mean, I have.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, some of the reviews, there was a second review in the New York Times that called it repetitive and monotonous. The New Yorker said his prose gave the impression of having been shouted at on paper. And what remains is a debris of sour jokes. Yeah, the jokes are pretty dark. Like, it's about war, and it's about how pointless war is and how, so perhaps it was difficult for men who'd been through that to then kind of say, oh, well, to look and laugh at the pointlessness of the whole thing. Men who'd lost, say, friends in the war or whatever, to laugh at that. Maybe it was too close.
Yeah.
To the whole thing. But yeah, it was absolutely panned when it first came out. And it's still absolutely, yeah, as I say, a real classic. Like, it's one of those that, and the comedy stands up, and it's funny to this day, and it's great. And but what I love about it is that he wrote the first few lines. Like, he wrote it was love at first sight the first time he saw the chaplain, and then blank for his character's name, fell madly in love with him. And he had the opening line, and then he spent a really long time kind of thinking about the opening line, and then it took him a week to write the first chapter, and he sent that off to a publisher, and the publisher said to him, all right, well, we can turn this into a book for you if you like. It sounds good. We really enjoy it. And then it took him another 8 years to deliver the book. To actually write the whole book. Yeah, 8 years to write it in the end.
Typical writer, hey? Typical writer.
But what a book. I'm going to read you the full kind of opening paragraph. It was love at first sight the first time Yossarian saw the chaplain. He fell madly in love with him. Yossarian was in the hospital with a pain in his liver that fell just short of being jaundice. The doctors were puzzled by the fact that it wasn't quite jaundice. If it became jaundice, they could treat it. And if it didn't become jaundice and went away, then they could discharge him. But this just being short of jaundice all the time confused them. And that's
That's wonderful. Yeah. And that's the theme of
And that's basically the theme of the whole book. Yeah. But this is his opening kind of thing in his head that he
wonderful
decided to write a book on. Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds wonderful. Yeah. It's how you cope with warfare. Gee, you got to have a bit of a laugh, eh?
Got to have a bit of... Oh, yeah. Lol. Hey, over the top, lads.
Well, I'm going to talk about a lovely author. Comedians love him. Comic genius. Terry Pratchett. He was...
Has he won awards?
He was knighted. To me, that's a nice award. He's a Sir Terry Pratchett.
Fair enough, yeah.
He died. OBE, they call it.
There's an interesting stat.
That's not his disease, that's the award.
The one in 10 books that they sell in the UK are fantasy.
Really?
And 1 in 10 fantasy books sold in the UK are Terry Pratchett, which means that 1% of all books sold in the UK are Terry Pratchett books.
Yes, he is the... is it him? Yes, it is him. Best-selling author in the UK.
Yeah. As I say, 1% of all books. But, there it's so easy to buy books. They're like £5 each, and minimum wage is like £8 an hour. So really, a book is a thing that it's accessible to people. Whereas here, our minimum wage is like 15 Rand an hour, and then it's 200 rand a book.
Yeah, and that's why we're stupid.
That's why we're stupid. Yeah.
That's why we don't read in South
That's
Africa.
why the maximum reading we do is the back of cereal packets that Ryan normally has his notes on. Yeah.
But I did read his, his Discworld series. He's got 41 books in the Discworld series, and I have read a few, including the factors around his very first one is called The Color of Magic, and that is centered around the city of Ankh-Morpork, and the main character, Captain Vimes, who's captain of the Ankh-Morpork City Watch.
No, that's
The
incorrect.
Color of Magic.
No, the main character of The Color of Magic is Rincewind, the wizard. No, don't come to me with this Terry Pratchett slander. Captain Vimes is introduced in, I think, the 5th book, Guards. You don't.
All right, so
hear
you
him.
know Terry
Yeah.
Pratchett
Yeah,
and Discworld, hey?
Yeah, I mean the first two are actually a little bit different to the others in that, they seem a little bit less organized, less structured. You know, The Color of Magic and The Light Fantastic, and they involve Rincewind, the wizard, and his moving luggage with the legs and all the rest of it, and then the others sort of take on various topics that he gets satirical about, and are kind of interjected with these guards style stories about Samuel Vimes and the Night Watch, and
that's the one I also I listened to the audiobook of Night Watch. Yeah, that's definitely got.
Yeah, so your fact is
Vimes.
very much a lie, and I'm like to the point that it has enraged me somewhere in here.
It's
made me
beautiful.
feel a little bit of like I've got pain in my left arm, right?
I'm delighted you're a Pratchett fan
Yeah.
and that you're a big fan of the Discworld
Yeah,
series.
no,
It's
you
lovely.
should definitely read Small Gods.
Yeah,
You should
I've read
Pyramids and
Night
Small
Watch. I've read The Color of Magic, and there is another one that I've read, and I can't remember. Oh, the one that's totally off course. The one about the female warriors.
Oh,
Monstrous.
the 5th
yeah,
Regiment.
Given away the plot. Sorry, I spoiled the plot. Monstrous Regiment.
Monstrous Regiment.
Yeah, based
5th
on
Element. I'm
some-
confusing the two. Yeah, 5th Element
Yeah.
and Monstrous Regiment.
based on some weird bit of historical accuracy. Apparently, there was a French regiment made up of women.
Of ladies.
Not really ladies, yeah?
No.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
So
but-
well done. I was lying and you nailed me instantly.
Yeah, but you should read Pyramids and Small Gods,
Okay.
because those
Also
are the ones in
Discworld,
which he does satire about religion, and it's searing and it's excellent and it's very, very funny.
Yeah, well look, I like the where the gods live is called Dun Manifesting, which is very funny.
Yeah, there's a lot of
the
that.
castle and of course the university's Unseen University. It's all about magic, but it's
No, there's a lot of very clever. The philosophers in Small Gods, the ones who propose that perhaps the world isn't ruled by the gods, do so in a forum with a copper roof, because that way the gods can't strike them with lightning. Anyway, that's magnificent. Very, very good.
Nice.
Yes. All right. Like the thing is, I came into Terry Pratchett when I was teenager at school. Yeah, I started reading Terry Pratchett. But I'm gonna go even younger for my next one. It won the Caldecott Medal. It's a book called Where the Wild Things Are. I don't know if you've heard of this.
do. Yes.
So it won the Caldecott Medal, which is like for the best children's fiction of the year. It is a children's book, Where the Wild Things Are. But my fact about it, and it's an absolute classic. It came out, I think, in 1964. I don't know, somewhere around there. But yeah, so the original tale for the Wild Things were, this is my fact, Where the Wild Things Are, was going to be called Where the Wild Horses Are, but Maurice Sendak, the author, couldn't draw horses, so he changed it to things.
Oh, that's a lovely
That's
fact.
my fact.
What I know about it is it's a little boy who befriends these wild things, monstrous type, hairy things, and then they made it into a movie, which looked very, very charming.
Well, the movie
I didn't watch the whole
a
thing.
bit much, because it's a very short, very simple story.
Yeah.
It's about a boy who is naughty at the start of the book, and then he gets sent to his room. And in his room, he imagines himself rowing out to the place where the wild things are, and then they threaten him with their nasty claws and their terrible teeth, and then he shows them that he's wilder than them and becomes the king of the wild things, and then he gets tired and he's got to go home, and he gets back on his boat and he goes home and he finds that his mother has left his dinner for him and it's still warm. So it's all his imagination. So it's
wonderful.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. But yeah, it was originally supposed to be where the wild horses are. That's my favorite.
I see. Reminds me a bit of The Little Prince. Have you seen that? That's lovely. Is it called The Little Prince?
Yeah.
I love that. The wild horses, but he couldn't draw horses. The wild horses.
Yeah, because obviously he illustrates the whole book. It's being a children's book. He's drawn all the things.
Wild things. Sounds like it could be a cute fact. But is it time for a lie? I'm going to say you're lying and you just made it up.
I mean, so it's an interesting one. It is a lie, but it's not my lie. It's Maurice Sendak's lie, which is what's so kind
half a point, Deets. Half a point.
No. So actually, in an interview, Maurice Sendak said this. He told a journalist this exact story that I've said to you. He said he couldn't draw horses, and when he told his editor he couldn't draw horses, his editor said to him, so what can you draw? And he said I can draw things, and his editor said, well then draw things. But actually, it turns out that that's a nonsense story because Sendak could draw horses. In fact, there's a very early folio of kind of his drawings where he's got this rough drawing of a horse kicking the boy Max out of his pajamas. And it's beautifully drawn horses. And then in 1955, Maurice Sendak illustrated Charlotte and the Wild Horses, which was a children's book authored by Ruth Krauss, in which he did like a lot of pictures of beautiful horses in there. So he could definitely draw horses. So ultimately, he changed horses to things as a considered artistic, thing. He just used to lie about it.
It's still very charming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the movie did look appealing. It did look appealing.
I think the thing about the movie is they've got to fill it in with a lot of other kind of airy nonsense. So it's a movie without a lot of substance. I have seen it. It doesn't have... It's not gripping. There's nothing that really happens.
I wonder if The Little Prince is the same. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't seen the movie, no.
Jeff Bridges is in there. Who's in The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, I was about to say the dude. The dude. You hope he's in the character of the dude.
Man, what do you mean you're on another planet, man? He's on another planet, man. He's talking to a rose on another planet, man. That's bullshit, Lebowski. No, man. It's like it happens, man. You can go to another planet. Maybe it's your own planet. You talk to a rose, man. You're talking to a rose about... Shut the fuck up, Johnny.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Donnie. You're out of your element.
Donnie.
Donnie. Good.
Cool. So this next little fact is it taught me a thing or two about humility because I listened to this I had a phase where I listened to like many audiobooks. This was Joburg Traffic. I was in Joburg Traffic 3 hours a day.
Yeah, like you used to say that you used to read books. This is problematic, right? Like if you listen to books, you'd be like, I read 4 books last week. No, you didn't. You listened to books. You listened to 4 books.
I got through a lot. I got like
no, I believe you
160 in 4 years or something.
So I got through Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall on one trip to Cape Town, one drive from Joburg to Cape Town.
You did it. You focused.
Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall. No, it's brilliant. It's
was
very
it
good.
CDs
I mean, it's
back
thoroughly
in those
enjoyable.
days?
Was it
CDs? Did you listen to the CD?
I think so. Yeah. I think it was CDs, and but it was thoroughly good. And I've only now this month, over the past month, read the next 2.
Oh wow!
Bringing Up the Bodies and Light in the Mirror.
Wow.
Yeah, so that I finally read the rest of the... It's about Thomas Cromwell and Henry Tudor, and it's the Tudor dynasty from the perspective of Thomas Cromwell. But yeah, it's the only audiobook I ever listened to is Wolf Hall. Anyway, just...
But those artists are very good, those voice artists. They're very good.
Yeah. I mean, have you heard Stephen Fry describe how he does those voice readings? Like first you have to read it like a normal person.
Okay.
Then you read it and you mark the inflection points and where you've got to pause, and you make notes for which character is speaking. Because sometimes you enter a paragraph and then it's not immediately clear which character is speaking. So you got to do your accents, right? So then you mark which character's about to speak now, so that when you read it, you don't stumble over things. You know when to breathe, when to break, what characters' voices to be using, which things to be I mean, it sounds really intense. It sounds like
Yeah.
and then he says you have to do the reading like clear. You have to do chapter by chapter without a mistake.
Jeez, like.
Because he says otherwise it sounds unnatural if you try and break after
Yes,
every
the little
sentence. Yeah,
clippings.
he says you gotta go chapter by chapter without an error, which means you can sometimes do several readings of the same chapter.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah, yeah. It's a. I mean, there's a reason these guys get paid a lot of money, right?
Yeah. And the Agatha Christie ones, David Suchet was very good at reading some of them. And then the guy who played his sidekick in the Poirot series, he was also good at doing them. They were just brilliant.
Just good
Professional.
voices.
Yeah.
Did you listen to a lot of Agatha Christie?
Yes. I did. The librarian actually said, you must try and listen to something else. You really should try. But there's still a few more Agatha. Try anything else. Fine.
I think she saw potential in you, Ryan. I think that's what it was. She could see a brain being wasted away on murder mysteries that could have been used to improve the world. Could have been used to make gorgeous podcasts.
You see, and thank you to her. Thank you to her. It was the Listener's Library back
Yes.
in Hyde Park. Remember that place? So this guy, his name is Colin McCann, the author.
Mm-hmm.
Let's first look at some of his prizes. He's been honoured with numerous awards throughout his career, including a Pushcart Prize, Rooney Prize, Irish Novel of the Year award. Not for this one I'd like to talk about, though, but he has won awards, as you can see. Colin McCann. He is an Irish-American, but born in Ireland, now lives in New York. And this is where I was somewhat humbled because I listened to this audiobook and I thought it was terrible and a load of cuck. It was just ridiculous and irrelevant, and I couldn't follow it, didn't know the point of it. It was all just silly. And it's a book called Zoli. And it's actually about the plight of a Syrian immigrant, Syrian woman immigrant, Zoli. And that's my fact. Strange fact, I know.
I mean, I think it would
You'll-
be very
you might
difficult
not
for an
know.
Irish-American male author to write about a Syrian female immigrant. But, with the title Zoli, who knows what it's about? I mean, I worry a little bit that, I don't think he could be, surely he can't write that well enough to get awards for it, to be recognized author. Surely he would write about stuff he knows about. Isn't that the point?
I think one should write about the stuff one knows about. Mind you, my final fact will blow your mind. Mind you, maybe
You see, you did the radio thing again.
Yeah.
Stick around, folks.
Stick around,
The final
folks.
fact will blow your mind.
Will Warren win R1 million at the end of the episode?
Yeah. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, and join us after the break to see if Ryan's fact will actually blow your mind.
Well, he goes for a quick wee to the ladies. 'Cause
To the
Dietz
ladies?
Dietz only has a key for the ladies. There's,
yeah.
we don't, there's.
I mean, you did make yourself sound somewhat creepy there. I'm glad you clarified it for people. It's very important. No, it's not about Syrian immigrants.
Right. Is that your final?
That's
You're
it.
saying I'm lying.
Yeah.
Well, Zoli by Colin McCann, quite a brilliant book, is indeed not about a Syrian woman immigrant. So you're right, I get a point there.
Okay.
It is about a Syrian woman of the Romani people. Is
So
that how you say them?
Romani people in Syria.
No, in Europe.
Okay, all right. So
So
not
the Syrian was a
Syrian was the confusing.
yes, it was a what? It was a red herring.
Oh, well, fair enough. I mean,
Okay,
in
so-
Ireland, there's a large Romani population in Ireland.
Is it?
Yeah, so they have a lot of interactions, and you'd imagine that somebody like him probably grew up around Romani.
Do they then stay in Ireland? Because they're a nomadic
So
people.
they do. They travel around.
But they
yeah.
wouldn't cross
Well,
the channel.
No, so they move and they stay and they kind of camp where in one place for a while, and then they move on and they camp somewhere else. It's we were talking about Snatch the other week.
Yes.
It's Brad Pitt's character in Snatch.
So
is
he
that
was
kind of lifestyle,
he was
yeah.
a kind of was he an
Romani,
actual Romani?
Well, yeah, it's that culture. It's that I would imagine he was.
And
probably
are there
Romani.
places in the modern Europe? Are there places they can actually live and are free to settle at?
It's an
Sort of-
awkward situation. I know in Britain it's this big thing that causes the privileged huge amounts of angst when the Romani roll into town and then take a local field and just kind of make it their home, and then they spend
Yeah.
a long time trying to get the police and the courts to clear them out, and then eventually they move on and go somewhere else. And I'd imagine that that's what most of Europe is like towards them. There's a lot of bigotry towards the Roma people.
Yeah. And this story is quite tender, and why I say it was humbling for me is because I had to actually go back and after I read about it, because I'm like, man, why is it so critically acclaimed if I thought it was nonsense? And then I actually had to think, wow, he actually wrote it from the perspective of this Romani woman to show the plight of them, because it's a whole life's journey really, and it starts with and she's from she's a Slovak in that region, but the Second World War was very disruptive for them, and then the Soviets tried to lure them out of their lifestyle and promise them places where they can stay. But
Well, I mean, the Nazis, they were one of the people you could be thrown into camps for. Yeah, so they had their own, symbol on their clothing, and they were treated just the same as the Jews. They were, yeah. So yeah, being Roma has never been kind of historically beneficial to anybody, really.
And another interesting little factoid is it's fiction, but it is based on the life of a Polish lady who was actually the Romani's sort of celebrated poet or storyteller, and she wrote and she was literate, which is kind of unique, and but also had a very tragic life. But also when you go back and look at those who left their nomadic lifestyle and sort of settled in certain regions of Slovakia, poverty, hey, and they kind of don't seem to fit into this modern society, and it's very tragic. And that's the conclusion he comes to. It's not really a happy ending as much as it's a real window into their lives.
I mean,
Quite
look,
sad.
deep, meaningful, but Ryan, is it funny? You really dropped the ball as far as it comes to like humorous, Oh, you know what the funniest book I ever read was? That one in which all those people died. Schindler's List. What a laugh riot. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
this was. I think that's what got me. Was it's very sad and
no, I
stark.
can hear the way the heavy way that you're dealing with it.
And maybe that's why I didn't want to face reality and like, no, this is shit. But that's because it's good.
I've got a book very similar to that. I was actually telling a friend of mine recently, Kay Selodakis wrote a book about street children in Sea Point, and it's written quite like bluntly.
Really?
Yeah, quite like the language isn't very colorful. It's not very descriptive. It's not very, it's sort of, and at the time I read it when I was 19 years old or something, and at the time I kind of was a little bit dismissive of it. But I tell you something, that book has stuck with me ever since. I think about like some of the very simple, blunt language, and the way that he dealt with it. I think about now. Like when I'm in Sea Point, I can't help but think about it.
It actually is artistic. It's
yeah,
very highly artistic.
It is undoubtedly a work of genius. It's like how many books actually stick with you like that?
Yeah. It's like that poem, the Afrikaans poem. This one, people will know. I'm sure it is called. Oh man. Damn it, don't escape me now. Come back to me, Mr. Diaga. I'm summoning the spirit of Mr. Stomp.
Is Mr. Diaga still alive?
I think so. Stompy was his nickname.
Stompy,
yeah. It was about ek is ook important. It was a street sweeper in Cape Town. Clearly a coloured guy, Afrikaans coloured speaking. Afrikaans speaking coloured.
Right.
And it's called Ek is ook important. And then he talks about the shit that he's going to sweep up and stuff and the things that he sees. And then the final line is, but it's simple. And Ek is ook important, which is funny because it's not even Afrikaans.
It's amazing that they taught you that sort of stuff in Potchefstroom. I would have thought if you went to school in Potchefstroom in the 80s, you learnt about things, amazing things, like the invention of the steam engine. Like you'd be like, boys, no more pulling the plow anymore. Oaks, some clever oak in Britain has invented a steam engine. and we're going to be able to have it pull our plow for us. You boys can stop pull the plow now.
We did have a fact from our history teacher, Mr. Canova. He said the first steam train to pull into Bloemfontein was celebrated by President Brandt of the Free State, and the birth of his granddaughter. The celebration was that he named her. He was, I think he was talking. He was certainly talking. It was just.
I mean, are you now doubting yourself?
No,
Tell
he
us
was
this
talking.
fact. Tell us this fact.
It was. He was gonna name her Locomotivia in celebration of the first.
There have been worse names.
But he didn't want her to be shunted around her whole life. Mr. Canova. That's fucking funny.
Oh, that was the joke he used to dine out on first dates. My mother told me recently that she's so old. Shame. That in 1964, when her family moved from Port Elizabeth to Johannesburg, they took steam train from Port Elizabeth to Bloemfontein, and then it was electric train from Bloemfontein to Johannesburg. And she said it was very fancy because the electric train only ran Cape Town to Johannesburg. And she said it felt like this massive upgrade, this very fancy,
It's hysterical.
this ability to ride an electric train. Anyway,
Georgia.
yeah. Now, let me leap 2-footed into somebody else. Toni Morrison. Have you heard of her?
No.
You haven't heard of Toni Morrison?
No, not yet.
The Nobel Prize winner for literature in 1993, Toni Morrison.
No. It's a she, hey?
Yeah. She won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 1988. Her big book is Beloved, and that's the one that won her Pulitzer Prize book. I think it's become a movie as well.
Yes.
Song of Solomon, Sula, Tar Baby, Jazz is another one. But my fact is her first book, The Bluest Eye, she had published when she was just 14 years old.
Good Lord.
That's my fact.
Wow. Controversial question. Is she African-American woman?
She is indeed, yeah.
Wow. Beloved. Yeah. Okay. Song of Solomon, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. 14.
Mm.
First book published when she was 14. Jeepers. That's very young. Man, who had the time?
Yeah, you were playing cricket for like Junior Transvaal. You couldn't possibly be writing a top novel at the same time.
I write little short stories, but it takes me about 18 months to do one. So I don't know whether... By the time she was 14, a book. Man, remarkable. I'm sure there's a hell of a story behind her life. Sounds inspiring.
Yeah, so the story, very simply is it's about a little girl who wishes she had blue eyes. That's what this novel is about, The Bluest Eye, yeah. It's about a little black girl who wishes she had blue eyes.
Wow, 14. Okay. I'm going to say the fact's true. That sounds so sweet. Yeah, I'm going to say it's true.
Okay. The fact is a lie. In fact, it's the opposite story. Toni Morrison got married. She was a professor at Howard University, and she used to write in her spare time. And she wrote the story of the little girl who wished she had blue eyes. And then she wrote it in like a book club, and then she sort of set it aside. And a couple months later, ended up divorcing her husband. And after she divorced her husband, she was like, you know what? I'm going to publish this book. We don't know what happened behind the scenes, but it almost sounds like she brought home the story that really meant something to her. And then her husband went, and she went, she put it in the cupboard, and she went, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. And then she kicked him out and published her book. Good. And and then it was an incredible seller. And then after that, I mean, she became Toni Morrison, which is like Nobel Prize winning laureate.
Jeez.
Which is, unbelievable. And she did it at the age of 39. So, those of us who are sitting here probably watching this podcast, it's not too late.
No, I think the late blooming author is quite a strong thing, because look, it helps if you've written your whole life in some form like journalism or something like that. But the big thing, I joined a little thing with my mate, Ken, the murder mystery dude. But we just kind of just to write every day, and so that's the big thing. But if you just add it up and you write a little bit every day,
you guys are writing alien fan fiction. You're writing like like elf sex stories. You know, like nobody wants to read your your your
You'll be
your fan
surprised.
fiction about Elf from the 1980s sitcom character. Ryan, like,
Alpharoticism.
Elf
You'll be
might mean a lot to
surprised.
you, but to the rest of us, him eating a cat is not as sexy a pun as you would think.
But yes, I think you gotta. I love to find out how people got to that point in their careers or their lives where they decided, I'm gonna try and publish a story and see how.
I mean, look, she was clearly like Toni Morrison. She was working as a professor at Howard University.
Okay,
She was
sorry.
clearly quite clever. But on the flip side, you know, just because I didn't want to sort of raise the concept of a young author and then not bet it back down again. Nadine Gordimer published her first book at 15. And obviously, she went on to write 14 novels and won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1991. So that's our own Nadine Gordimer.
And she was from Springs.
She
and-
was from Springs,
and
yeah.
was literate, which is
Which even today makes her very special in Springs, yeah.
I was going to say, this is not a fact, but because he hasn't won a prize for his books, but John Grisham is a lawyer, and but soon after qualifying as a lawyer and sort of practicing or working for a firm of sorts, not the firm, like one of his books, but then what he would do is he'd get to work an hour earlier. And then, because he actually wanted to be a writer, even though he was now a practicing
Right.
lawyer, and he'd start writing his book, which was a sort of a legal drama. And then after publishing his first one, it did so well that he quit his job and writes kind of at least one or two a year since then. I think he tries to write a book in 6 months. That's what he tries to do. But man, he pumps out then legal dramas, John Grisham. But
Yeah,
it
he loves
started
them.
as he was like, shut, I'm a lawyer now. Shucks, I really want to be a writer. Shucks,
I
what
wonder
am I going to do?
whose account he was billing that hour to, because I can guarantee you, as soon as you swipe in as a lawyer on any of the big firms, you swipe in and they're like, right, what did you do for this hour? Who did you bill? What did you clock in? How much photocopying paper did you use? How much can we charge this guy? $5 a sheet, right? Like, you were sitting writing your own novel, Grisham.
What is who worked, guys? Which client worked on the Pelican Brief? What's that?
Yeah. Can we build a Pelican Brief, please? 100 A4 pages at $8 a page?
Oh man, that's cool. Whose turn is it?
It's mine. It's
mine.
mine. Oh, no, wait, hang on.
That's me, because you did the one about Thomas,
About Nadine
the
Gordimer.
girl.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Toni Morrison.
the blue eyes. What's it called? Blue eyes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the bluest eye, yeah.
Well, here is a author that I'm sure you've heard of. This is the funny thing is, you know me and my religious views, but some of my favorite authors are actually hardcore atheists, including Terry, not hardcore, just atheist, including Terry Pratchett, and this next one, Ian McEwan.
Oh, yes.
So he wrote Atonement, amongst other things. It turned into a brilliant movie. The Innocent is I didn't see that
Enduring
movie,
Love,
but
yeah.
it's excellent. Enduring Love. I saw that movie. It was a very good movie.
I haven't seen the movie. I've read the book.
Very
though.
good. Daniel Craig plays the main dude. Excellent. And then the weirdo is played by excellent actor as well. The tall guy from Notting Hill. The one who's in the bath.
Oh, the
when-
weird one.
Excellent.
Evans. I want to say Evans. Reese, I don't know.
Yes, but here's my Here's my fact about Ian McEwan. So, awards-wise, he has been nominated for the Booker Prize 6 times to date, winning the prize for a book called Amsterdam in 1998, which I haven't read. There's even a book he wrote, which I listened to, called Saturday. It takes place over one day. Brilliant. It's a crazy day.
A Sunday, right?
No.
I mean, Ulysses by James Joyce takes place over one day, and that's like 1,000 pages.
Really?
Honestly, like, it's a book I've started twice. I've gotten
Shame.
to about page
One
150. It's heavy. Like, every single line is a joke.
Really?
Yeah, man, it's difficult going.
Some books are difficult reading.
No, but it's one that I've sworn to myself I have to finish before I die.
One should try and write books that are nice to read.
Yeah, come on, James. Yes, just make it easy for me. My brain's too stupid for your James, for your Ulysses.
All right, so here's my fact about Ian McEwan. His first story, about 1977.
I haven't guessed whether Amsterdam's a real thing.
No.
Do you want me to guess whether it's a fact?
That's
or
not a fact. No, that's all true so far.
Oh, okay.
But here's the fact is, after writing his first story in 77, second one in about 81, first one was called The Cement Garden. The second one was called The Comfort of Strangers. I haven't read The Comfort of Strangers. I have read The Cement Garden. After those first two, Ian McEwan was nicknamed Ian McMagic. That's my fact.
I mean, that sounds like a football thing, right? Doesn't it? Yeah. Ian McMagic. It's like like Batistuta. They used to call him Butty Goal. You know, it's that thing, that Argentinian striker. Yeah. Like, where did you get Butty Goal from? That's a ridiculous nickname. McMagic, equally ridiculous name. You know, one of my favorite things about Enduring Love, right, was, I mean, this is probably apocryphal and an urban legend, but so he made up the illness in Enduring Love.
Crazy.
Right? It's about a guy who stalks another man because he believes that man is in love with him.
You might have said that before on this podcast, but say it again for our listeners.
I don't know.
No, say it again.
I think I may have told you before. I don't know whether I've said it on the podcast, but yeah, it's and then he believes that this guy is sending signals. The stalker believes that this guy is sending him signals through the curtains, and actually secretly loves him, but just can't tell him. And what Ian McEwan did was he invented this whole biography supporting this particular illness. And giving it a name, and I can't remember what the name in the book is, but he gives it a name, and then psychologists allegedly started diagnosing people with this particular thing, until somebody kind of caught on, and it emerged that in fact, no, this was all nonsense, and all of the biography was all lies, and it had all been made up. It's very like postmodern, you know.
Very clever.
But yeah, apparently, allegedly now, this is now known as McEwan's. If you got like McEwan syndrome or whatever it is, McEwan's.
What I found interesting was he was an atheist and good friends with Christopher Hitchens. Of course, Peter Hitchens is his brother who's religious, but he was friends with Christopher Hitchens, who was part of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You know, that they called themselves.
I mean, I love the way you very seriously. Yes, they're definitely the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
But what I know, the first thing I picked up, because when reading a book, I also like to know the sort of philosophical leaning of the author. I just find it's important because
you want to know whether they're trying to brainwash you away from God.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want to lure you into hell with this particular novel.
And what I found quite interesting was, not so much Christopher Hitchens, but let's say, for example, the book by Richard Dawkins called The God Delusion, which
the good book.
If you
by Richard Dawkins.
If you take it to its the title, if you try and hazard a guess at what the title means, it means you believe in God, you're probably deluded. Which is
I think it's more the concept. I think it's more the concept of the humanity's belief in God is a delusion.
Yes. Because he definitely called himself a firm, hardcore atheist. But in Enduring Love by Ian McEwan, the guy who believes in God is deluded, definitely, and dangerous.
Right.
And so it's almost like if the two books were written side by side, you got the scientist arguing with logic and reason and philosophy, saying over history we think this is what happened, and so therefore this emerged as a belief in God, and that's a delusion. And here's a little parable by Ian McEwan. Boop! And it's like, oh my God, people who believe in God are gonna fucking kill you.
So you were what, offended by that this?
No, I just
lunatic.
thought that. I
mean, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of crazy stuff in the name of religion.
Yeah, but I thought because they were
delusion.
such prominent authors and voices in society at that stage, that they must be having a lot of influence, and they're coming at the culture with a double-edged sword or two-pronged attack. Really, they're coming at
people should be forced to read one book by them and then another by a delusional lunatic who believes in God.
Get some balance,
Get some balance.
They were getting it in their non-fiction and getting it in their fiction.
Sure.
This wave
double
of
penetration, if you will.
this wave of religious
Right in
skepticism.
right in their fiction and their non-fiction.
Yeah, I found it fascinating. But back to was he called Ian McMagic after his first two books?
You know the thing about this is, so if you follow like chess or whatever, these guys all get like quite often. Some of them will get like a nickname or a little, like and darts and these sort of like these nerd pastimes. I'm prepared to believe that authoring is exactly the same sort of thing. That you can get a stupid nickname for writing 2 good books in a row.
So you think it's true?
I'm gonna say it's true, though I don't want to believe it.
No, he was given a nickname, but it wasn't Ian McMagic. It was Ian Macabre.
Oh.
Yeah. But like I said, I've read the Cement Garden. Have you read it? Or Comfort of Strangers?
No, I haven't done.
Oh, Cement Garden it's excellent, but it's a tough read, man, and it's short. But golly, the subject matter is. What I love about Ian McEwan, because he is one of my favorite authors.
You see, Ian Macabre, by the way, clever nickname.
Yeah.
Ian McMagic, Buttigieg of nicknames. That's what it is.
The way he brings very ordinary scenes through the microscope, and it's like you're there and you can feel the awkwardness, you can feel the tension, and it's very basic and ordinary. It's just 2 people talking about something.
My first dates.
My first date.
Yeah.
Warren's first date by
any
Ian
first
McEwan.
date I ever go on, yeah.
Saturday Night by Ian McEwan.
Yeah, any first date I ever go on is like a scene from The Office with David Brent.
Oh dear. But
anyway, good.
yeah, you got to read.
Speaking of irreligious writers.
Oh.
Let me leap into this one. So thanks very much for setting that up for me, because I appreciate it. Because Salman Rushdie, obviously,
Oh yes.
hugely famous author,
Yes.
has a fatwa out on him. Somebody recently stabbed him because of said fatwa.
Ah, that's
Like,
terrible. Wasn't it in New York where he was stabbed?
I'm not sure where he was stabbed. I thought it was in the stomach. Oh, God, I'm here all week. But obviously... I've got to give you a minute. Obviously, he won the Booker Prize in 1982 for Midnight's Children. And then he won the Booker's Booker, which is like the best Booker Prize winning book ever in 2008 for the same book. So
I didn't know TJ Booker. Was that a thing? Booker's Booker.
That was William Shatner, wasn't it? Anyway, good. Yeah, so Salman Rushdie won the Booker Prize in 1982 for Midnight Children, which is, I think it's a prize only given to people in the Commonwealth who like from Commonwealth countries.
Oh.
Yeah, but then so he won the Booker's Booker. Other people who've won the Booker Prize include James Coetzee, for instance, right? Like, and Peter Carey from Australia, and yeah. But so he won for Midnight Children. He's obviously an awarded writer, but and a great one. Midnight Children tells the history of India through a kind of allegorical story of a boy. It's excellent. It's excellent. There's some of his other books like Shame. Also very, very good. Like Midnight Children it's not an easy read, but it's worth it at the end of the day. You come out the other side like feeling like your brain's been stretched, like it's been exercised, like you've learned something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But before he was this famous, unbelievable writer, who was literally irritating, people enough to take fatwas out on him. Which happened for the book The Satanic Verses.
Yes.
But before he was that, he was a copywriter with Ogilvy, and he worked on a campaign. He's famously worked on a campaign for the tabloid newspaper, the Daily Mirror, in which he coined the phrase, "Look into the mirror, you'll like what you see." That's
cool.
my fact.
It's a lovely fact.
That's my fact.
Interesting fact. Copywriter. Hey, there's hope for us. Well. I mean, during the state capture era of South Africa, that there was a British lady who was, working for an agency in London who came up with the phrases.
White monopoly capital.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the other one, it was a radical economic transformation. I
Right.
think, yeah. Bloody copywriters.
I know.
Cause such
It'd be
cuck
catchy,
in a country.
Yeah.
So you're saying he was
I'm
copywriter
saying
for Ogilvy, came up with the Daily Mirror's
probably one of the
campaign.
finest intellectuals in current British thinking.
We are copywriters. Are the
Wrote
finest.
advertising for the tabloid newspaper, the Daily Mirror. Yeah.
This is good for my ego if it's true. Yeah, of course, copywriters are freaking brilliant.
I mean, it might be the reason I put it there.
My ego is just wanting to.
flourish.
It's gonna. Yeah, it's bubbling. Its effervescence is bubbling over for me to say, yes, you're right. It's right. Salman Rushdie was worked for Ogilvy. He was a copywriter.
You're right. You're right. It is an ego thing, though, isn't it? Like, 'cause it would make you feel unbelievably special if this dude was not, But yeah, he did. He absolutely did. He coined the phrase "look into the mirror, you'll like what you see." He actually was involved.
Great phrase.
He was actually involved in 2 quite famous campaigns that you may have heard of. He came up with the phrase "irresistible" for Aero. Maybe that's the one. He in fact what he did was the whole campaign was based around taking words that end in "bl" and changing that to bubble, so it was all words like delectable.
Oh, that's cool.
Incredible, irresistible, adorable, and in the campaign was in fact it made so much money for Aero that a business to business magazine called the campaign, or they ran adverts in the business to business magazine saying it was very profitable.
Oh, fantastic!
Anyway,
Man,
so
I
that's
love the British sense of humor.
But anyway, that's how
funny.
that's how that thing worked, and. The other one he wrote, which was for UK Milk Board's fresh cream cakes, which is actually probably even more famous, is it's naughty but nice.
Ah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So naughty but nice.
Naughty but nice is a
Salman
Salman
Rushdie.
Rushdie coined
It's wonderful
advertising
phrase.
slogan.
Because
Yeah.
they've used it for lingerie for so long, ever since then. I think there's a shop called Naughty but Nice, I think. Not that I've been in there, I'm just
Well,
saying
anyway,
I think.
it's a Salman Rushdie coined advertising phrase.
In my improv days, there was, scenes from the cutting room floor.
Yes.
Or book rack or something. So or famous, I don't know, but the audience shouted out famous author, famous last words. So someone shouted out.
What were the last words of, say, Nelson Mandela? And
so I
then
stepped forward. Yeah. I didn't know he was British. So I went in which is in the modern world quite probably a little bit racy. I did it like an Indian accent. I said, famous last words of Salman Rushdie. I went, no. I went to it in the Indian accent. No. What I meant was the satanic versus the good guys.
Cracking joke at the time, I'm sure.
But I'm sure he'd be happy with that because he was a copywriter.
Yeah.
Copywriter to another.
I mean, maybe he doesn't think the whole thing's quite as funny as he used to now. No. Somebody's actually stabbed him, but yeah.
Right.
I mean, the whole, having a fatwa out on you is great publicity until someone stabs you.
Yeah.
Well,
should we have a stab at the multiple choice?
Wonderful, Ryan. Yes, let's have a stab at the multiple choice. That sounds great. I loved it.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you did Salman. Salman. Oh, this is an interesting one. A chap called I can't believe I didn't write his first name. Cornwell. What is his name? I just didn't write it down. That's funny. He wrote. Is it not Bruce? No, it's not Bruce Cornwell.
What did he write?
He wrote. So he's this guy. He was appointed an officer of the Order of the British. So he was knighted for services to literature and television production.
So you're saying he's an award winner?
Yes, he's big time.
Right. Maybe Dietz can look
Cornwall. Okay, so he wrote the Sharp series. Sorry, it's so silly of me to not have his first name. Bernard, there it is.
Bernie Cornwall, all right.
So we're thinking it's going to be this awesome, and it's Bernard. Bernard Cornwall. Now, he's quite a chap because I have read a few of his books.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
They've clearly stayed with you.
And he's excellent at history, which is part of the reason he was knighted. But he then writes these tales of fiction in the historical setting. They're quite brilliant. So if it's a battle that's taking place in the 1300s, he's writing from the perspective of one of the archers or something, and he did it with Agincourt. You know a lot about Agincourt. You explained to us the one podcast all about.
Yeah,
and
the war episode.
he was one of the archers in Agincourt, and the whole battle's playing out. But it's a story. It's not non-fiction. It's fiction. So that's his real brilliance. And I don't know.
So it's like, I mean, a historic fiction. You get a lot of that.
Do you?
These days. Yeah, it's very, very popular genre at the moment.
But it's
I mean, Wolf Hall. Wolf Hall is that.
Okay.
It's,
I thought
it's an imagining
sounds
of
like
the Tudor court from Thomas Cromwell.
Yes, but the historical events are actually pretty
yes, the research
accurate.
that goes into these books is immense. Yeah.
That's what is extraordinary about him.
Yeah.
So he's done a few series. One was a chap called Sharp, which is the Napoleonic Wars, a rifleman. But he did one.
Of course, he's Sharpshooter. Hey? Is that what the book? If he called the book Sharpshooter, I'm angry.
He should have gone to Salmon to see if he could get a better name.
Did he call it Sharpshooter?
No, he didn't call it Sharpshooter, but the dude's name was Sharp. All right, so my fact, multiple choice is this. He realized British people don't know the origins of some of their kings and stuff. As Americans know the origins of their nation. So he wanted British to do it. So that inspired him to write a series of 13 books about which of these members of the British monarchy.
Okay.
Did he write these 13 books about Ethel the Unready, you know that king, Alfred the Great, Edward the Confessor, or William the Conqueror? So, I mean, this is great.
Early days royalty. Is that what
So
you're saying?
you're
saying he didn't know he believed the British didn't understand the basic kind of raw foundation of their nation.
Yeah.
So when it was kind of individual provinces that eventually became
Umbria, Northumbria, Cumbria, and Wessex, and Essex.
Right. That's right. Yeah. They merged together to form kind of an island nation that ultimately got conquered by the French.
Angleland.
And the Danish.
Yeah, shame. Because it's called England because of the Anglos. Angleland.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were Angles, and then the Normans came over, naughty Normans, and they did crime.
So which did he write a 13-book series about? Was it Ethelred? Was it
13 books about one of these kings?
Yeah.
That's too many books.
Ethelred. What's his name?
Ethelred the Unready.
Ethelred the Unready, Alfred the Great, Edward the Confessor, William the Conqueror. There was a king.
Sure.
There was a king in England who actually had 2 reigns. Don't know why.
So William the Conqueror. I would imagine there's enough for a few books because he kind of lived a life in France and then, came over. He had, of course, the big Battle of Hastings, and then it was about kind of suppressing the Angles all around the country and building all the castles. There's quite a lot of history there.
Defeated Harold.
Yeah, shame, poor old Harold.
Just named Harold.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the others would have enough about them. Certainly not from my perspective. But maybe that was why old Bernard decided that it was very important to write these books. Is it all sort of fan fiction-y? Sounds a bit fan fiction-y.
What's fan fiction?
Fan fiction is where you take the characters from like a TV show or a movie, and then you write your own like fun stories about them. So did he do proper research on it?
Yes.
He only wrote proper research.
Yes.
He didn't write like casual.
Nancy Drew.
No, like if I was writing fan fiction about Jesus, it would be like young Jesus, like I'd write like Jesus at school, Jesus being Jesus.
The Secret Diaries of Jesus.
Of Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus Mole.
Yeah, and then he's Jesus Mole.
Mole.
And then Jesus, he's unbelievably good in the football team. Like he's
and water polo. He's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
No, it's not fan fiction, man.
But it's real historical research.
Real historical, man. They would probably shit in a chamber pot and throw it out the window.
So it's Ethelred the Unready.
Ethelred the Unready, Alfred the Great, Edward the Confessor,
Or it's
William
Alfred the
Conqueror.
Great. You don't get a nickname like Great unless A, you deserve it, or B, you name yourself. And I don't think Alfred the Great got an opportunity to name himself. So I'm going to go with him. Let's go with him.
With what?
Alfred the Great.
Damn it! You nailed it. Yes, you did. Let me get my phone again.
13 books. That's too
13
many books on
books,
Alfred
yeah.
the Great.
I thought I had done one on Alfred. I haven't. He did ones during the series he called, what's that, Holy Grail series.
Oh, yeah.
Heretic is one, brilliant. And oh no, I have done one during the Alfred series.
You mean you've read one? You've read
Yes.
read them.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is audiobook.
13 audio books.
Lords of the North. That's the one I did of these 13. Lords of the North.
But you can't read them
Excellent.
out of order. You got to read them in order, surely.
There was what was on the shelf at the
Yeah.
listeners' library.
You should have stuck with Agatha Christie.
Yeah, but my word, excellent. And yeah, the Danes were
And he's won awards
Pulling
for
in.
these.
well, he was knighted
Okay.
for his work
Right.
overall.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, if somebody wrote 13 books about one of my ancestors, I'd also, yeah, well done.
And you know, if you suppose if you listen to these things and then you hear the name of a town or the name of a region, and then it's repeated, it like makes you want to look it up and research it further. But like, do you know what York, the city of York's, one of its names was in like what it was called in the 9th century?
Okay, no.
Yofflewich.
Nice. Yeah, that's much. It's much more angle.
York.
Yeah.
It's not.
The Americans would have the city of
Yofflewich.
New Yofflewich. New Yofflewich. Right, my turn. Are we ready, Steets? Right, my turn. I've got a much quicker one, right? Because the topic is the fastest written award-winning books. And listen, this may not be definitive. Somebody out there might have an actual answer to this because it's obviously based on my research. I've done as much research on this as I possibly can, but here they are. Is the fastest written... which of these books is the fastest written? There we go. That's what we'll do.
And they're award-winning books.
Yeah, which of these award-winning books is fastest written? As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner, The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne, or On the Road by Jack Kerouac?
That's a great question. It's interesting. Wow. Remains of the Day was a lovely movie, wasn't it?
Beautiful. I mean, it's heartbreaking, that book. Like,
I love that.
absolutely, like, it's so sad. It's so sad that he's dedicated his whole life to this. I just...
And the movie's so good.
Yeah.
Such good acting. And it's so long and drawn out that there's no ways that was the fastest award-winning book.
Yeah.
As I Lay Dying, my word. Maybe he didn't have a long time to live, so he wrote it very quickly. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. My son says, I have to watch that movie or read the book. He's just like, Dad, you have to, and you'll cry. Like, that's what he keeps saying, but I haven't yet. And then the other one was what?
On the Road by Jack Kerouac.
No, that can't be quick. I'm thinking it is. I'm gonna have a go at The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, just as a guess. But the others sound long and drawn out.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let me do it in the order in which, like, from the longest to the shortest.
of those.
The longest one of those is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. It's 6 weeks it took to write.
Gee, that's quick.
Yeah, won the
Shit.
Nobel Prize for Literature in 1949 for that book, old William Faulkner. The next one is The Remains of the Day, which won the Booker Prize in 1989. He wrote it in just under 4 weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah, not bad, this is where you find out that you were right, because On the Road by Jack Kerouac took 3 weeks, 21 days to write. And The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by Irish novelist John Boyne, Bisto Book of the Year 2007, took 2.5 days.
Good Lord.
Yes,
Brilliant.
I say, like, I challenge anyone to find a book quicker than this. I feel like it's a pretty good one. There are other books like
Oh, we have a question from Dietz.
Dietz asks, how do they prove that it was only
Ah.
written in 2.5 days? No, so these things are done based on obviously on the author's claims and on things that deadlines for writers. Like, so obviously with John Boyne here in 2.5 days, we've only got his word for it, but he's admitted that his other books are written in significantly longer periods and taken over time. Yeah, he said he kind of, and when you read Boy in the Striped Pajamas, it is a very simple story, and you can imagine it being written in 2.5 days. It is possible. Yeah, it's not a crazy one. You know, one of the other ones, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, he said that he wrote it in 3 fevered days and nights.
Really?
That he just stayed up for 3 fevered days and nights, and he wrote Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Yeah, and then his wife threw it away in the bin because she thought it was a load of trash.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, she read it and Robert will not be publishing this, and she threw it in the bin. And then he had to write it in another 3 fevered days and nights.
Oh no!
So he rewrote the book. Yeah. So that technically, I suppose, he wrote it in 6 days. Shame. His full name at birth was Robert Louis Balfour Stevenson, but he opted at 18 to drop Balfour off the middle. I don't know why. Maybe it was a person who offended him. The best one, the one that we actually have proof for how quickly they wrote it. Dostoevsky wrote a book called The Gambler in 26 days because he was busy writing Crime and Punishment, and his editors kind of came to him and went, "Listen, your deadline is end of this month. We need this book." And he knew he was never going to be able to finish Crime and Punishment in the time, so he banged off another novel to give them, which is The Gambler. Yeah, but yeah, Boy in Striped Pajamas, 2.5 days.
That's amazing. But I also, as a copywriter, you know,
Yeah.
that maybe leaves that procrastinates until the deadline looms. When you get a little angle, you get a little headline and then a little thing, then you can write a little blog quite quickly because you've got a little angle. So I think maybe if you do have a nice little angle and you can see it, plus you can see that this could be really good. I got it, and then you burn with that little bit of a fire for a few days. I can see how it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, you know, these authors are quite interesting about things. So Jack Kerouac wrote On the Road in 3 weeks, sure. But he also spent 7 years traveling America and kind of in his head gathering stories and notes and all of this stuff.
Totally.
You know, so 7 years worth of notes and story and kind of ideas and thinking, and then 3 weeks of banging this thing out,
Sure.
you know, in one continuous stream. So there's possible that the
like,
pre-thought and the working had already happened before the feverish 2.5 days of actual writing.
Then it's like you poke a hole in a 2-liter Coke bottle, and that's what the writing process is about. And then you've got to try and get the Coke out as fast as you can through this little hole, and it's pouring. But you've got the Coke bottle.
Yeah,
it's
you've
bit of a
already
mess
got
there.
the Coke. It's already there.
It's there, but and you know, famously, like Alanis Morissette, Ironic, the song, lovely song, I love it. And that was 45 minutes.
Is how long it took her to write it.
Yeah.
Well,
Because you get an angle and you nail it, and it's like, that works, I got it.
Red Hot Chili Peppers said they wrote the song Scar Tissue in 5 minutes, and quite honestly, I think you
Jeez.
can tell. I think it's a piece of shit.
Do you?
But
I
also,
I like the guitar. They're
Elton
very
John always
beautiful.
said he basically wrote his songs like in under an hour. Sit down,
Yeah.
you know, once you've got the hook.
And the Beatles were like, again, sometimes it was like a song before lunch and then a song after lunch for some of their albums. It was like that kind of mental thing. And of course, ironic, the irony of the song is that she's got the meaning a bit wrong. But she's laughed about that.
Oh yeah, no,
since then.
she's got it terrifically wrong. But yeah,
And she's made little parody songs since then about the fact that none of those things in that song were ironies. They were just bummers.
Yeah.
Which is not an irony. Rain on your wedding day is just a bummer.
A lift when you're already there. 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
Isn't it ironic? Don't you
No,
think?
it's just 10,000 spoons.
Alanis.
Alanis, yeah.
not
Anyway,
ir-
good. We've gotten caught up in 1990s music
Always.
somehow on our award-winning literature podcast.
That
But
was
good.
fun. That was good. It's inspired me to read some of the things in your list there. Maybe we in our description we should put the list of books we discussed in the show for the bookworms out there.
Nah. Let's make them work for it. Let's make them work for
I'm
it.
trying to be progressive here, okay? Trying to be like, sometimes the professor of rock, if he's discussed songs, then he's like, all the songs are in a little playlist.
But Ryan, the difference between the Professor of Rock and us is that the Professor of Rock knows what he's doing. You know, we're just here very deeply grateful for everyone that watches this podcast and who clicks like on it and shares it and everything else. We're deeply grateful.
Very grateful.
We know, like the fact that we don't ask you for money doesn't mean that it means nothing to us. It means the world to us. Thank you very much.
And it doesn't mean that it's not coming in the future.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. Bless you.
Yes, be blessed, brothers and sisters.
Oh.
Join us next week.
Yeah, do that.
Bye.
Bye.